show where I help high-achieving women push their limits, dominate their mindset, and take action towards their goals. It's about to get real, so buckle up and brace for impact. My name is Ashleigh Mayfield, and I am the high-achieving woman. I am so excited to be back with you guys for another week, and we're coming to you with the hashtag Ask Ashleigh. This is where you send me your questions, and I'm going to answer if they're applicable to this podcast, which is all about becoming that high-achieving woman, building your confidence, building your belief, empowering others, developing that leadership within. You guys know what I'm about. So if you have anything that you want me to answer, make sure you shoot me a question, whether that is Facebook, Instagram, it doesn't matter. You guys know how to connect with me. And thank you always for sharing the episodes, sharing the podcast, spreading the word. It means so much to me. I value so much when you guys share it and you tag me, just so I can know the takeaway, the feedback, all that good stuff. Thank you guys. You are amazing. So let's go ahead and dive into this Ask Ashleigh. How can I connect with others more? I think that it is so important, no matter what you're doing in your life, right? Whether you're a boss, you're a mom, you're a friend, that you are learning to connect with people. This is extremely important. And you can prioritize connection relationships without being driven that way. And I think that there's a misconception. I know I talk a lot about the color personalities and staying in your lane, but the reality is caring about other people has nothing to do with a personality. It has to do with you being a good human, right? And so if you are wanting to be the best version of yourself, if you are wanting to be the best leader, you're wanting to be the best parent, you're wanting to be the best friend, it is so important that you learn how to connect with others. And you might not be driven this way. In fact, for the longest time, I said I wasn't driven by relationships, and that wasn't true at all. You don't have to be a yellow personality. I think everybody is driven by relationships, because if you're reading the same Bible I am, we were created to do life with people. But relationships might mean something different to everybody, and depending on your personality, but also the season that you're in. But, life and doing life with other people, it really is learning how to care, not only for yourself, but really learning how to care for others. So I could sit here and try to come up with all the stuff and pull it out my butt, but in reality, I value John C. Maxwell so much. And so I'm actually going to pull something that he wrote all about the law of connection. And it was just so profound. It's something that filled my cup. I've read it numerous times. And so I kind of just want to dive into that. And I think it's really important when you're learning how to connect with people that there's a time and a place for certain things. There's a time and a place where you're talking to a group of people and it's got to stay surface level, but then there's a time and a place where you get to dive in on an individual level. And, a low functioning leader is going to take moments where you should be prioritizing the individual, but they're going to clump them together and try to kill 10 birds with one stone. And I can tell you that I did that when I first started business. I thought, how can I make this easier for me? Like, tell me that's not a low functioning leader. I'm trying to make everything easier for me and more complicated for the people I lead. And I had to realize that pyramid or that mindset, I had it backwards. I should, as I am the leader, and this is John C. Maxwell talks about this in the rights and responsibilities triangle. The more responsibility you have, the lower your rights are. Like, I don't have the right to ignore the people that I lead. I don't have the right to kick my feet up on the desk and make the people that I lead make me money, because I have a lot of responsibility on my shoulders. And so really understanding how high functioning leaders think and how we approach connectivity or connection with other humans, I think is so stinking important. And so there's a time and a place where you can kill 10 birds with one stone. But when it really comes to connecting with humans, John C. Maxwell talks a lot about that. You have to win someone's heart before you can win their hand. And a lot of times when we show up to business or we show up to life and we're around these humans that we love and we're around these humans that we want them to follow us, we want them to have buy-in immediately. The reality is some people are going to do what you say just because they're submissive or because they value instruction. Other people, you're going to have to develop a relationship with them. And people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And just because someone should be following, you also have to realize just as much as there's someone who values submitting to instruction, there's other people who value rebellion when you tell them what to do. And so you tell them to go left and they're going to go right. And so a lot of this is learning, those basic principles about connection, but it's also learning how to sell yourself on some level. So I want to go ahead and dive in and really talk about what are 8 things that John C. Maxwell talks about in the law of connection. And the first thing is you have to connect with yourself. You will hear me say this till I'm blue in the face. Self-awareness, to me, in my biased opinion, is the number one quality, number one value, number one trait in a leader. You've got to know who you are. When you start understanding who you are and who you're not, you're going to be able to see that pattern in human behavior. You're going to be able to start seeing and really not just even seeing other people more clearly, but you're going to be able to start really developing the principles and the habits that you need around success based on who you are, how you learn, how you receive, the boundaries you need to set, and all of that. And the more you understand yourself, the more you're going to understand other people. And so none of this, like if you're not even in tune with your emotions, or you're not in tune with positive self-talk, or you're not in tune with discipline, no one's ever going to follow you. People want to follow someone who's going somewhere and doing something. People want to follow other people who are confident. And until you can effectively lead others, until you have the capacity to do that, it doesn't mean that you need to be a 10 out of 10, but it doesn't mean that you need to be on your path of growth. You need to have some establishment there. And a lot of people think, well, I have to cross my finish line before I can start and lead others. And you need to know in your journey of self-growth, there is no finish line. That's the beautiful thing about Jesus, is there's always another level. We are going to be on this path of self-growth until the day that we die. And so you can be a hot, holy mess on your path while effectively leading other people. It's the same of what I go back and talk about. 2 opposing emotions can absolutely coexist. And so you can be on your journey of self-discovering while effectively leading others, but you can't not find any value in self-growth and want to try to be the boss. It doesn't work that way, okay? And so you really got to learn how to connect with yourself. And that's an everyday process. There's not a finish line. There's definitely mile markers along the way, but there's not a finish line. And so for you to effectively connect with other people, it starts with the foundation of your own self-awareness and your own personal growth. The second thing is you've got to communicate with openness and sincerity. A lot of times we want to show up to connecting with people with like a copy paste mentality. And I learned that by being a parent. I learned that, my 12-year-old is drastically different than my 8-year-old. In fact, my children have 2 polar opposite personalities. It's like a Venn diagram. They're like legit a Venn diagram. There are parts of their personalities that coexist, but these 2 couldn't be more polar opposite. And when you show up with a cookie cutter parenting method or a cookie cutter leadership method, there are going to be multiple people that will help, but then there's going to be people that hurt. I cannot parent Jocelyn the same way that I do Gator. It is, and for anyone who doesn't know, we call our youngest daughter Gator, Alligator. Her name is Allison, but we call her Alligator or just Gator, Gatorbot, Gator Tot, Ryan Pussin. She has a lot of nicknames. It's just a massive evolution. Anyways, but it's really important that you're communicating and connecting with openness and sincerity. That, there are going to be some things that you copy and paste. There's going to be those rules that apply to both of them. Obviously, chores that apply to both of them. But, the way that we handle both of them has to be different. It has to be a different approach based on how they receive. And so really making sure that even when I'm complimenting them, I'm not just like, hey, good job on your chores. Hey, good job on your chores. I'm trying to show up very specifically like, hey, thank you so much for vacuuming underneath the table. I appreciated that you actually pulled out all the chairs and vacuumed everything and just didn't try to go around the chairs. Thank you so much for taking that into consideration. I'm trying to make sure that when I'm connecting with someone, I'm giving that specific detail that allows them to know I see them. In my businesses, when I am reaching out to people, I'm not just like, hey, good job on that sale. Hey, good job on that growth. Hey, good job. I'm like, wow, I am so proud of you that you crossed that finish line, considering all you've been through. I know it feels like you've been a single mom recently because of how much your husband's been working, but I want you to know the fact that you prioritized your business, like that means a lot to me. And I want you to know I see that. Do you notice the difference in those two? Hey, good job on that sale. Or taking the time to really be open and sincere and making it so specific to them where they know there's no possible way this is a copy and paste message. Because there's so much sincerity. And I think something that we can immediately do, especially when it comes to business or when it comes to, just even in our careers, really making sure that we're finding that way. If we're doing it in text, we're really given those specific details, but how can you go above and beyond? How can you make sure that you're like, if you're sending an email to someone that again, you're going above and beyond, but how can you like send voice memos? How can you pick up the phone and call them where they know like, wow, this person took 30 seconds out of their time to individualize this. When you learn how to lead people on that level, that is what develops the connectedness. People know you're busy. People know I am busy, but when I am willing to like pick up the phone and spend 5 minutes with them, or I'm willing to hop on a Zoom and look them in the eye for 15 minutes, or I'm driving 30 minutes to my destination, I pick up the phone and have that, that open and sincere conversation, that allows the relationship to connect on a deeper level. And I think sometimes we think that we have to give people a lot. And so leading others can be a little intimidating if you're like, well, I don't have an hour to give everybody. You'd be shocked how much 3 minutes will do for people. Again, people know that you're busy. My kids know that I'm busy. And in fact, at 12 and 8, my kids really, especially my 12-year-old, I don't think she wants to spend a lot of time with me right now, but it's those little moments, it's those little things that you do that really go super, super far with people. Number 3 is you need to know your audience. If you really want to connect with people on a deeper level, you have to get to know them. It is so simple to get in a group of people and constantly just talk about yourself. We are very self-centered people. We value talking about ourselves. And if you're anything like me, you probably talk about yourself for hours, right? And so it's really important that when I'm around people that I lead, even my children, I am in a position where I'm asking more questions, like I'm listening more than I'm speaking. It's really important that I get to know them. If you want to lead effectively and you want to connect with people, you got to know who you're connecting with. You have to know, how do they like to be spoken to? What are the habits that they enjoy? What are the habits they struggle with? You have to allow them to open up and really get to know them in order to lead them effectively. If I am telling my daughter, who values instruction, exactly how to, wash the dishes, but that's not her learning style. She values instruction, but that's not her learning style. Her learning style, she's more visual. So it doesn't matter how many times I tell her, this is the order that you do it, this is how you do it. If I'm not communicating with her in a way that she is open to receiving, or it's the best learning style for her, I don't really know her. I'm just going to make it difficult for both of us. And so for me, if you're really wanting to help lead people effectively and you're wanting to help them, cross their finish line more, which typically brings some level of fulfillment or success for us, right? When my kids do the things I ask them to do, they do it right the first time, makes our house a lot more peaceful. When I am leading the women, the high achieving women that I lead in both of my businesses, when I'm helping them cross their finish line, it not only gives me credibility, but it also allows me to get the success that I want, right? And so when I get to know other people, when I spend time connecting with them, I'm going to learn things about them. And when I ask them questions, I'm going to learn, it's going to position them to open up more, where I'm going to be able to get like powerful intel that I might not have known had I not spent that time with them, had I not asked them specific questions. And even a lot of times when I'll get questions from, other high achieving women that are like, when you're meeting with people, how do you know what to say? Well, sometimes it's not what you say. Sometimes it's the questions you ask and it's what they say. And so if you really want to improve your connection with people, learning to ask questions about them, about their goals, about their development, about their family, learning to connect with them in a way could be really, really powerful. Number 4, live your message. If you want to connect with others, if you want to be a more effective leader, you have to learn how to live your message. This is something that we have all experienced on some level. We've all had a manager, we've all had a parent, we've all had a leader that was advising us of things to do, but they weren't walking it out. And I'm not talking about like they were advising you of things to do but they weren't in their process. I'm talking like you have a manager who talks to you about how important it is to have a work ethic, and then they're back in their desk, kicking their feet up on the desk. Okay. I'm talking like very specifically, someone is guiding you in a way that they would never do. Someone is telling you to scrub toilets when they would never get on their knees and scrub toilets. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about everything, because there's definitely things in my business that's like not my lane, but I teach other women how to do it because it could be their lane. It could be effective for them. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about someone specifically gives you instructions or leads you, manages you, bosses you around in a way that they would never do, or they act like they're too good. And this is a matter of, you've got to preach what you practice. If we know that people want to follow someone who's going somewhere and doing something, you have to live, you have to model. Okay, the best inspiration, the best motivation, the best encouragement you can give to another human is modeling the behavior in which you are asking them. A lot of times we're really quick to call people out, but we don't call people higher. You can call people higher when you have grown and developed in the ways that you're calling them out, okay? And so I had a manager that was like this. I was a co-manager. I worked for a manager who was really bossy, who would like yell at people very abrasively. I learned a lot of what not to do by the example from her and by the relationships that she destroyed. She actually ruined her own credibility. People lost respect for her because they saw through her stuff, because she did not practice what she preached. And she, the way she led people was contradictory to the things she was advising the people to do. And again, we've all experienced that on some level. We've all learned from someone and said, okay, that's not who I want to be, or that's not how I want to do things. And it's really important, if you're wanting to connect with people, that you need to be about the things that you're encouraging them to do. You have to live that message. So in one of my businesses, I help high achieving women, create an additional stream of income for themselves. And it is so important that I am leading from the front. It is so important that I am crossing my finish lines. And a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to be the only one on my team winning, or I don't want my team to think that I'm bragging. No, your team needs to see the example of you living the message. And I had someone in my organization who I had to remove for, reasons that we're not going to go into. But she does not live the message. And because of that, the people she leads, like at best, the people that you lead will do 50% of what you do, right? And so it's so important that you are living your message, that you are crossing your own finish lines that you're setting. Whether your finish line is 3 inches in front of you or a mile in front of you, that's a whole nother conversation. But it's so important that you are living your message. People need to know that you have credibility. People need to know that you are authentic. People need to know that you are honest. Honesty, I value honesty so much. Are you about the things that you say you're going to be about? Well, if you want to connect with people on a deeper level, you've got to be about that. And I will tell you this, there is the way that my demeanor is and the way my personality is and the things that I value, they can rub people the wrong way. But guess what? When someone wants results and they're not getting it, guess who they come to? They come to me. Why? Because they know I live my message. They know that I am doing the things that I say I'm going to do. They know I've got the history to prove it. And so you might not like the way that I talk. You might not like the way that I make you uncomfortable, but you freaking know that like And if you're listening to this podcast, there's a reason you're listening to this podcast, because you're like, dang, this girl like is about the things that she says, right? I live very authentically. And so that allows you to connect with people on a deeper level. It allows you to build that trust with the people that you lead. And if you want to connect with people, there has to be a level of trust there. If you do not live your message, and again, hear me very clearly. I know a lot of us think black and white. It's a very gray area. You can be a hot mess in your process. You're allowed to be in a process while leading effectively, okay? It's not, let me cross my finish line and then let me live out my message and then I'm going to learn how to lead other people. No, you're always in a process. There's always another finish line. There's always another goal. But people will respect you when they see you live your message. When you make mistakes, when you fail, when you apologize, that builds connection with people. It's not just you going from mountaintop to mountaintop. It's the whole process. And so when you live your message, when you're in the valley, when you're making mistakes, the people that you're trying to connect with are watching you. If you're someone that always quits in the dip, that's why people don't want to follow you, because they're not going to see that bounce back. People need to see the entire message lived out. And if you're only showing them the highlight reel, that connection isn't always going to be there. I can tell you so many times I can post on social media and I can have the perfect pose and the perfect caption and people are like, oh yeah, Mayfield always wins. But it's the moments where I show the picture of me crying. It's the moments when I show that I'm struggling, that I'm extremely vulnerable, that people see me living out. Like, hey, I'm walking through the junk. I'm walking through poop or the mud. I'm eating poop sandwiches all the time. And people see me live out that message of consistency. People see me live out that message of determination, of perseverance, of grit, of zeal, of all of these things. And that's what allows people to connect to me on a deeper level and me connect to other people, is that I'm showing them that I live that message. Woo! That could preach. Thank you, Jesus. All right. That was number 4 out of 8. Let's keep moving. Number 5 is go to where they are. There's this thing in leadership where a lot of people think that the way to lead is just by calling people higher to their level. And I think the greatest example we see in the Bible is, in the New Testament and in the Gospels, is Jesus going to the sinners, Jesus going to the people. And yes, there is one side of leadership where you are calling people higher because you believe in them, which we'll get to a second. But a lot of it is you have to go to people. You have to go to where they are. Maybe that means you need to fly across the country and do a meeting. Maybe that means that instead of always like yelling at your kid that they're in their room, you have to go in their room to have a conversation with them. Go where people are. And I don't really know what else to say other than that. Sometimes the way we communicate with people becomes a barrier. We expect them to only understand it our way. Have you ever had a conversation with someone and they're like, they give you instruction, but they don't tell you another way? Like there's a meme where someone's like looking with tears in their eyes, or like when someone's explained something 17 times and you still don't get it. And so you have to understand that by going to people, that not only means you have self-awareness, it means you're learning social awareness. You're learning about other people. And you learn how to communicate it on their level. So for instance, right now, if you're leading other humans, you might predominantly, like in one of my businesses, we predominantly use like text or messenger, like you're using your thumbs to communicate. Well, there's going to be some people that's not enough for them. And it's easy to sit back and be like, oh, they're stupid. They don't get it. They don't want it. They're not taking this serious. No, it's that you're only communicating with them through text and maybe they need a verbal explanation, or maybe they need to jump on Zoom and you got to screen share and show them. And so really going to where people are. And again, this goes back to understanding other people and listening and get to knowing your audience. That can help you be really, really effective. And, going where people are doesn't just mean on the path of success, it means really understanding someone, understanding their background. Instead of just assuming people don't want success, understand why they're scared to put themselves out there, understand like the backstory behind it, understand their culture, their background. I think that can go really far with connecting with people. Number 6, focus on them and not yourself. I say this phrase all the time. If you're in your head, you're dead. Okay. When you're in your head, when you're so psyched out about your fear, when you're so psyched out about judgment, you're only thinking of yourself. You're only thinking of yourself. Oh my God, I can't do this because I am in a position where I'm going to look stupid. Or, oh my gosh, I can't do this because everyone's going to laugh at me. You're only thinking of yourself. And so it's really important that whenever you're leading, that you're thinking of the other person. So what does this mean? This means that I've had to have some tough conversations. I've had to have some tough conversations with my daughter. I've had to have some tough conversations with people I lead. And it could be really easy for me to just think about myself. Oh my gosh, like what if my daughter hates me because I've got to call her higher on something? What if this leader, gets really mad at me because I've got to call them higher on something? And in reality, when you come from a place of love and you let someone know, hey, I'm willing to be honest with you because I care about you, I think that shows care. I think that shows kindness. I care so much about you. I had someone who was mad at me for 1.5 years and never told me why. And the person proceeded to tell me that I was a bad friend to them until I had to I didn't call them higher because we're not friends anymore, but I had to call them out. And I was like, when did this happen? And I realized for 18 months, and I thought, man, you really don't care about our friendship because you've held on to a grievance. You've held on to a grudge for 18 months, and you didn't have the ability to care enough about me or care enough about our relationship to call this out, get the full picture, let me apologize, all these things, right? And so when you're focused on other people, I think that, as uncomfortable as conversations can be, and I'm not just talking about conflict, but when you truly love someone, you're willing to approach them. When you truly love someone, you're like, hey, I see this in you. I think you could be better. I think you could do more. And I think that deepens the connection with people. I just got done talking to someone and she's like, wow, no one cares enough about me other than my spouse to call me out and call me higher. And she thanked me for doing that to her. And it wasn't an easy conversation even on my end to have. It made me uncomfortable, but I had to care enough about her that I wasn't focused on myself. Sometimes I have to do that when I'm speaking on stage. I have to bring up tough conversations. A lot of people just think, oh, Mayfield, you're just this fireball and you're heartless and you're so hardcore and mental toughness and blah, 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 blah. And the reality is that's not true. I am I have really big emotions, and you see the side of me that I want you to see, right? But I cry multiple times a week to my husband. I am a big baby on some level. I'm a work in progress, but I choose to live authentically because I choose to care about you guys so much, to call you higher at the cost of you not liking me, at the cost of you thinking that I'm this big jerk, and obviously there's things in my control, like the way that you say it and how you say it and the timing of when you say it. All those things matter in communication. But focusing on other people and not on yourself, that is how you connect with people. When you're in a room with people, how often are you asking questions? How often are you listening? And even when someone shares their story, do you just listen to respond? Do you listen to, oh my gosh, I have the same experience, blah, 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 because you want your voice to be heard? Or do you ask them deeper questions to pull more out of them? Are you making your times of connection about your agenda or about really calling them higher? And it could be a tough balance. There's going to be moments where you've got to teach, but there's got to be moments where you listen to. And so really focusing on other people can really allow you to be a more effective leader. Number 7 is believe in them. Believe in them. Believe in someone enough. See the value in someone enough that you're not just talking to them when you need something from them. And that could get harder to do, the more people that you lead. I think that's where creating systems in place, making sure you have that good chain of command, where people are getting loved on no matter what. But people will know when you're connecting with them that you believe in them, when you connect with them outside of you needing something from them. Okay. And we've all known that person where you're like, the only reason you're talking to me right now is because you want something. It's because you want to know something. You want information. You want me to do something for you. And so when you believe in people, you're having those connecting moments outside of just wanting something from them. And again, it doesn't have to be an hour. You don't have to give everybody an hour. It can literally just be, hey, I'm thinking of you. How are things going? Hey, oh my gosh, I saw this at the store and it reminded me of you. How is life? But believing in them and caring enough about them to tell them that you see greater in them, to tell them that, that you believe that they've got great capacity. And this is definitely something that I can work on, is just really doing those little things. I think that's what this comes down to, is just that little extra touch and care, going above and beyond. And then number 8, last but not least, is offer direction and hope. And he writes this, that Napoleon Bonaparte said, leaders are hope dealers. And the reality is leaders lead. We have to not only be crossing our finish lines and lead from the front, but we have to be able to offer that direction for other people. We have to be able to care enough about people when we see them going left and they should be going right, that we say something. We have to care enough about people to, as we are winning, give them the little tips and tricks that allowed us to win, to be able to do that. And there's so many people who, they want their team to win. They want their kids to do better. They want the people that they lead to excel, but they're not offering that direction. They're not being able to connect with them on an individual level. That way they can speak into their business, speak into their life. And obviously saying things like, do you just want me to listen, or you want me to give advice? But really being able to share that wisdom and that hope with people, being able to constantly sprinkle that into the lives of people is so important, because so many of us live in our head nowadays. So many of us are afraid to color outside the lines. We're afraid to believe. And we just need that person who speaks life over us and who's willing to say, hey, I'm going to show you the way. I go the way. And so I'm going to show you the way, and I'm going to offer you, not shortcuts in a way that's going to hurt somebody's development, but I'm going to offer you, I like it. I heard it once said, it's like a time machine, and because I'm, for people that jump into the business that I lead, I'm 5 years in. I have a lot of value and wisdom and direction that I can give brand new people. And so making sure that you're constantly pouring out in that way, with the people that you lead, that can really offer that connection when they know you care enough to give them those little details of ways that they can improve, little tips, tricks, hacks, things like that can go really, really far. So you guys, the important part is, like I said, it doesn't take a certain personality to care about people. It's a matter of, are you investing in someone? Are you spending time with them? Are you just using people to help you cross your finish line? Or are you really developing the habits? That way you can connect with people on a different level. I promise you, when you start doing this, everything will change, whether that's in your family unit, it's at your career, it's in, entrepreneurship as a boss. Maybe you oversee volunteers. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And the more that you start taking care of people, I promise they will start taking care of you. So go out there, and this is your homework. I want to challenge you this week. Find one person, one other human that you lead, you mentor, that you can go and build a connection with, where it's not about you, it's about them. Build that connection, deepen that relationship, and I promise you, you will not regret it. Love you guys. Talk to you soon.